Imagine achieving professional sounding mixes without even opening your wallet for mixing. It does sound impossible, but it is achievable. Today we're going to look at the top 5 best mixing plugins that you can use using the stock plugins inside Logic, and that can be used to elevate your mixes and sound it professional and great. The first plugin is SubBass. This is the bass track. Let's give more energy to the bass. So audio effects, specialized, SubBass, stereo because my track is stereo. Now this is going to add a lot of sub frequencies to your bass guitar and make it sound more thicker and powerful. Very useful if you have a very weak bass but the song needs more energy. Now I am just going to increase the wet knob on this and just listen to the change. Now that's a lot of grumble in the low end. This is without the plugin. Without. With. I mean, it's just growling in your headphones, right? And that just pushes the lower frequencies to a very high limit and makes it more present and more fuller. Now this has beautiful presets. I like to use bass booster, and for kick, the kick warmer sounds really good. Sub enhancer, that's also really good. So all the presets have a particular frequency that they kind of enhance. So let's listen to bass booster. Let's listen to sub enhancer. Now this sub enhancer does a lot more work on the extreme low frequencies, whereas bass booster does it kind of exactly the place where the waveform comes for the bass. So each of them enhance a particular frequency and you can choose which one you want by even changing them around over here, changing the bandwidth or changing which has to be highlighted, and you have a category for lows as well as for highs. So kind of giving the right quantity between them both is going to give a very nice output. I'm going to reduce the dry but keep this high and keep it at bass booster. So I'm starting to hear a lot of sub frequencies right now rather than the actual tune of the bass. So that's how it can be customized and very, very useful to make your basses sound thick and upfront. The next plugin is one of my favorite plugins that I always use on any mix that I do, and that is Tremolo. Go to audio effects, modulation, and the last plugin is Tremolo. I'm going to put stereo since my track is stereo. Now, Tremolo gives you movement, and if you feel your mixes are very boring and it's just the same thing at the same place, is nothing interesting, you might need Tremolo because you have a synthesizer, okay, and you keep it in the center, it's going to sound okay. But what if the synthesizer keeps moving to the left side and right side constantly and travels inside your ears? Isn't that going to sound interesting? And that's exactly what Tremolo does for you. It actually works wonders with presets, and we're going to listen to the change. This is without Tremolo. Now, you hear it going back and forth in your ears. Now that's the effect of Tremolo. You can decide the movement, time duration between that. So let's make it a little aggressive and push it at 1/2. Now I really want to take some drums, make an EDM track with this kind of song. But that's the motivation that Tremolo gives you. In fact, it gives you a lot of inspirations as well. So without the plugin, it is energetic and it's okay. But now, it sounds good, right? That's the magic that Tremolo can give you, and instantly it can elevate. Put this in your mix, more professional sounding it's going to be. You can put it under bus tracks. You can put it under reverbs, where the reverb partly moves around, partly stays in the center. You can do the same concept for delay. There's just like endless options that you can do with Tremolo, but that's the effect. And I always put it on a number of tracks and it just instantly pushes the track to another level and brings the creativity out. I was going through my YouTube analytics and I realized that 52% of my viewers enjoy my videos, watch them regularly, but don't subscribe to my channel. So if you are watching this video and haven't subscribed, do subscribe to my channel because it helps me and motivates me to make more videos and make all these resources available for you. The next plugin that's free and that's really very good in terms of analog processing is Vintage Graphic EQ. So you can find it under EQ, Vintage EQ Collection, Vintage Graphic EQ. I'm going to apply this on a guitar track and we're going to push the presence on this track more. And this is how the guitar originally sounds like. It's good. Now I need more presence. So I'm going to push the EQ on this plugin from around 2K and I'm going to see where I'm going to get a lot of presence and a lot more clarity. So if you push a lot of the higher end, you might start to get noise, okay? Just be careful on that part. Okay, let's do a comparison. This is without Vintage Graphic EQ. With. And there's this boost of clarity and suddenly those finger picking notes start to become very clear and prominent. And when you have another track to couple with this and pan it on the left and right, it's just going to elevate and push the mix to another professional level. This is a very, very good trick that you can use with EQ. And I generally prefer to use analog type plugins, which is like the hardware versions where you get a lot of saturation to it. So after I do this, I normally balance out the volume because now, yes, the quality is good, but the volume also went high. So I just turn it off and on and balance it out by pushing this down. So this is without. Now, quite loud still. So now you will hear the difference in the quality without. So one part of the signal is dull and the moment I turn it on, volume wise it's the same. But clarity wise, after the plugin, it's pushed much more higher. This is my go-to plugin, which I always teach all my students. It's something I'll always put on vocal tracks, on guitars, on violins, anything that pushes more presence and more clarity. I usually tend to put Vintage Graphic EQ. Now, the fourth plugin is ChromaVerb, which is a very underrated but a really good reverb plugin. It is kind of also overused in a way because that's the first plugin that you generally see under the reverb stock plugin category. But if you use it the right way, it can work wonders. And I like to couple ChromaVerb with other plugins like stereo spread plugins or saturators so that together you get that right effect. But we need to first understand how to sculpt ChromaVerb. So right now I have a guitar loop that I got from KR Records. They sent me this loop a while ago for a different video and we're going to use this as an example to find out how reverb is going to affect. Now I've put reverb on the bus track and this is without the reverb. Now, of course, it's a little crowded and muddy. So, okay, this is without the reverb. Now with. And whenever you feel the reverb is too much, you just pull down the sends over here. So ChromaVerb's beauty is the decay. It has, I mean, like you can push it as high as 100 seconds also, okay? And obviously you're not going to use 100 seconds, but this limit, basically you don't have any limit in the decay, which comes into play when you do it creatively. Now, let's try and make this very creative. Now I'm going to push the reverb using stereo spread. Put an EQ and cut out the lows. So without the bus track, this is what the guitar sounded like. Sounds more natural and ambient, right? I love to sculpt with ChromaVerb. Normally, if I go to third-party plugins, it'll always be Valhalla reverbs. But in stock plugins, I start to couple ChromaVerb and a vintage reverb. In a way, when you couple reverbs like this or ChromaVerb with other effects like what I've done right now, that combination sounds so beautiful, particularly because this gives you a lot more flexibility with decay. You can use it to your advantage and sculpt a long reverb, export it and create your own ambient sounds through that. Mostly other decays don't have 100 seconds as far as I've seen. If they do, they don't give me that ambient quality like how ChromaVerb is giving me. And that's the reason why this is kind of like my go-to plugin for reverb. Either it's a standalone or I always couple it with some other effect and make a different ambience out of it. Now the last stock plugin that I really love, we're going to look at stereo delay. So I'm going to add another bus track that already has stereo delay. Now without the bus track, this is the guitar. It's good. I need more delay to it because generally electric guitar sound good with a little bit of delay at the back, okay? So stereo delay is again a stock plugin in Logic that you can find under the delay category. The beauty about this delay is that you can give separate delays on the left side and right side. Normally delays, you set something, it's the same on both sides, right? But here you have an option to give different delays on either sides. So if you see on this side, I've given a 1/8 triplet note, but with a slightly different deviation. So the delay I'm going to hear on the left side is slightly different from what I hear on the right side because the deviation is different. So let me send something in and now let's listen to the track. So without the bus track. Now it kind of comes and tickles your ear a little bit. And see, that's the delay we're talking about. I get that flexibility because stereo delay has a separate left delay and a right delay. If you give the same thing, it's not going to be of that impact that I have right now. And one thing I always love to do is give variation through mixing. And I always say this in my videos that you don't necessarily only have to rely on variations through programming and through melody, through lyrics. You need to give variations through mixing and mastering also. One of my strengths in mixing and mastering is creative mixing, where when someone gives me a track, sometimes I make judgment on the programming side of it too, and I add another, like I duplicate a track which they give me, but then push the octave higher, extreme processing on it, like too much of reverb and too much of delay, but the volume of that track is going to be so less. When you listen to the track as a whole, it'll sound very creative. These are some of my strengths, and that's when the track is elevated, and that's when it sounds very unique and creative. Anybody can do a normal mix at this age, but how can you creatively use all these plugins? That's what matters. And plugins like stereo delay, ChromaVerb, or any other plugin that we saw like Tremolo and everything else is going to exactly do that method for you. So try out these 5 plugins and let me know how it worked in your mixes. Don't forget to share this video with your music producer friends. Comment what you liked about this video. This is Florina Jain, otherwise known as Flow of Music, and I'll see you guys in another video.